You literally play golf anywhere, any golf course. Doesn't matter if you're a member, not handicap, no handicap. You get paid in cash. It's really that simple.
So do you want to maybe talk to me? Obviously, we'll go into the details in the app, but obviously we talked a bit before the podcast about your career in the golf industry. So do you want to maybe rewind back to the start of your journey, and just tell me sort of how you actually, got into the golf industry?
Well, I think it probably started, I was 8 years old, and like many people, my dad kind of took me out to the golf course, and that's how it started. Loved the game, and over time, eventually you have to choose if you want to pursue a sport more rigorously, at least in the US.
Yeah.
So I did that and thought I was halfway decent for a while. Tried to play professionally, which I did for a little bit, not very good. You're probably not going to find me anywhere. And I realized quickly that to be able to eat steaks and have a decent life, I needed to not play golf for a living. So that's when I looked into the business side of it and found I really enjoyed that. I started a little bit before I joined Troon, just working kind of clubs where my parents were. And Troon came along, and at that point I was fairly young. I said, listen, I want to see the world. I want to travel, and have passport, tell me where to go. And they said, great. So 20 plus years later, here I am. I've done everything from receptionist behind the counter to driving the range picker to running the largest facilities in Troon's portfolio to my previous corporate role. So I've done a lot in the couple decades with them. It's obviously a big company and a lot of opportunity. So it was a big ride. That's where we are today.
Yeah, that was beautifully put, how you condensed, I would say, that's a couple of decades of progress within the golf industry into, a snapshot really, which is really well put. Take me back then to sort of the more humble days of, picking the driving range, and doing these jobs to actually build you up. Did you sort of think at that stage you had ambitions to climb the ladder and sort of get to where you were today? Like, did you always want to pursue a career within the golf industry?
Actually, no. I didn't really know at that point. I had ambitions originally for medicine. So I kind of started that. And then when I was looking around at other classmates and things, I saw that a lot of them had a real passion for it. So it wasn't just if you were smart enough to study and learn the material. It was, really, really just eating and breathing it. And I said, well, this is interesting. I really like the systems and everything that goes with medicine, but I didn't feel that passion that I saw. So I was like, okay, I'm young enough. What should I do to figure this out? My dad said, well, I'm building my house. Come on up, pound a few nails, work at the local golf club for a summer. And I said, okay, fine. So I tried it. And actually some of the best times I've had were driving that range picker because it's just pure peace, tranquility. You get to make people happy. You drive by and they all try to hit you. So everybody wins. Less responsibilities than I have today. So really, really good stuff. That's how I started. And from there, it was really talking to Troon that did it, because I said, well, I do want to learn more about this. I kind of like what I've seen. So how can I do that? And I guess I did get lucky in the sense that Troon is a big company. They were global even back then. Mm-hmm. So it was really just me raising my hand saying, yeah, I'll go. Kind of tell me where to go and let's see where this leads.
Yeah, like the curiosity, I suppose, just to explore that avenue. And it's funny that it was just your dad asked you up to the club and you almost stumbled upon the opportunity. It wasn't like a pre-planned thing.
Absolutely.
Range pickers always get a hard time. I think everyone's guilty of giving the range pickers a bit of a smack from time to time. I know I am for sure.
I would if I could hit one.
Yeah, it's the accuracy is the problem sometimes.
Absolutely.
So you're starting off. You've got the job then as the range picker. What was it, Troon then, where you started getting more involved in sort of the business side of things, and then is that where your curiosity sparked then to start sort of elevating yourself?
I would say yes. The approach that Troon had way back then was a little bit more novel in the golf space. That's generalizing, but it still was fairly new. We were still in the PGA program, still learning how to repair golf clubs and put grips on, which, okay, it's good for a certain part, but applying business to a golf operation was still not done everywhere. And that's what Troon did. There's systems in place that you could kind of follow and learn as you go along. So really it was up to you to say, I want to learn more, I want to learn less, I'd like to go explore this particular segment, whether it's merchandising, marketing, food and beverage. There were all those opportunities. So I would say, yeah, I would say it was really kind of luck a little that the paths crossed. But then after that, it is really up to everybody. And Troon for me provided that opportunity. So yeah, really good experience.
And maybe for the average golfer or just the average citizen, they might look at an organization like Troon that's so huge. They do so many um, different disciplines of things within their organization. So what is, like, if you could sort of boil down like the key objective of a company like Troon, what would you sort of describe that as being?
Everything is driven by people. Not a That's nothing new. So it really for them when I started was about kind of quantifying and putting actual processes in place. So you helped people achieve different things, and that just spreads out across all of the different areas of the business. So it has always been about the people for them, and they were founded on a member experience for a day, and that is kind of where the people come in, because every touch point you have is what you need to examine and make sure that the people who are paying your salary, the golfers coming in, members, etc., that they're feeling valued and getting value for their time and their money.
Mm. It's such an important part of it, and it's the central part of it, really. I mean, coming from my personal experience, obviously, I've experience of the US market of people coming in to play golf in the UK and Ireland, and operating a caddy program that is, you're a service based product, and you're trying to really just make their experience special and memorable in the course. Um, and it's the fine details that can sometimes make or break someone's experience. I had a guy just in the previous podcast. I don't know if you know Frederick from How Many Strokes, the app. He's a
I saw it, but I don't know Frederick. No.
Yeah. So he made a really interesting point. So their system is basically like a screen in the clubhouse, which is a touch point for visitors, so they can see the green speed, the weather, and the course. And it's just those little subtle touch points that can actually change someone's experience, and really make them remember a venue. So I can appreciate where you're coming from there.
Like you
Um,
said, that small point, instead of having paper or a whiteboard or A4 sheets tacked up on the wall, a screen. Just a screen. It looks so much nicer. So
yeah, it seems like common sense, doesn't it? But again, like going back to that, what I mentioned at the start, like these ideas and innovations in the golf industry, they all seem quite logical and commonsensical, but it's just the execution part that is really difficult, and hard, which is why the cream of the crop of companies will ultimately rise, and I'm sure yourself will be involved in that. You obviously mentioned there you're playing golf to a pretty high level. So do you want to maybe talk about your playing experience, sort of going right up through the years to sort of right now?
ooh, playing experience. I wish there were more highlights to tell you, Graham, but there really aren't too many. I mean, I've
I-
got the club championship and things like that, and played some
I'm
amateur,
waiting
played
for
some
this
mini
story
tour
about
events.
I'm waiting for the story about how you qualified for the Masters and pulled out on Wednesday due to an injury or something like that. I was waiting for this.
Yeah, no, nothing that exciting. Unfortunately, a few good stories. Luckily, I was able to rub shoulders with people like Justin Leonard and Phil Mickelson back in the day, Stuart Sink, just playing. But it was quite obvious, at least to me, watching some of these people play, there was something different. And I have a great day. I post a score, and then I'm playing with someone who was having just a mediocre day,
Mm.
and they beat me by 4 or 5 shots. And so I was like, okay, yeah, this is fun, but probably need to get a job.
It's tough whenever you're playing with with people you can just tell are better. There's this intangible element of their game where they could, the thing I've seen is good players can score in their bad day better than you can score in your good day, which is just what you summarized there. Which I sort of went through it myself, like obviously getting to a pretty good standard when I was young, and then the realization hit where I probably need to turn to business or services here if I'm to actually make a living out of it.
Yeah, that's
So
actually that difficulty that young golfers have, even just to try it out. It's really costly. It's time intensive. Uh, One element that we are trying to wrap into our new program, Golfsmart, is because we're hoping to tap into a large pool of just golfers, that we will be able to, in a way, crowdfund some of these people, or at least have them with more options.
mm,
Because when you're going through this, if you're just sleeping out of your car, whatever the case may be, you have to go around, talk to friends, family, you hit up neighbors, like, hey, anybody, any sponsorship you can find, just to try to keep the dream alive. And
mm,
there's a lot more to it. You never know where a good opportunity will come from, even if it's not playing. So trying to enable and encourage as much of that as possible is one little element. It's, not the biggest piece of the business, but it is something that is close to a lot of us, because we do know how difficult it is.
yeah.
And even if it doesn't work out for someone in the long run, they will have had a great time. They'll have learned a lot, and hopefully met some good people. So
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, John. And while I was over in St Andrews this year, I met a lot of folks playing pretty competitively on the amateur circuit in the UK and Ireland. And the problem they mentioned to me was, I'm putting all this time into events, but I have no sponsorship, I have no funding. How do I justify the time that I'm putting into practice? And it's almost this, diminishing returns of you're putting in more effort, but you're getting less results, less sponsorship. Um, and I've had multiple people say if there was a place where I could gain more help, or if there's a place where I could actually see what the sponsorship opportunities are, or um, it's a hard path for young people getting into the game.
very hard.
So I think that element would be really, it could be impactful, especially just based on my own personal experience of meeting folks that have that challenge at the minute. And I mean, these are no smucks that I've talked to as well. Like a girl Chloe who caddied with me in Kingsbarns, she just won the Scottish Amateur the year before, and she's still pretty youthful. So um, yeah, I think that's really a fantastic idea. So that probably segues quite nicely onto maybe talking a little bit more about your service that you're working on in the golf industry. So I had a brief look through your landing page, and it looks really fantastic. Obviously you have Beef Andrew Johnston involved, which is awesome to see. So maybe for the people viewing who have no idea what Golfsmart, your app, actually is, do you want to maybe just give a little surface level intro, and then we can delve into it?
Hopefully, the surface level intro is very easy. If we've done our job right, you literally play golf anywhere, any golf course. Doesn't matter if you're a member, not handicap, no handicap. You just play golf. You do a couple steps, like check in, write a little review, anything you want in that regard, and you earn points for it. You get paid in cash. It's really that simple. It's a little bit of the play to earn model, but we're doing it with golf, so it's golf to earn. And the idea was to have no barriers. No, everyone is allowed to do this, participate. It's open to golf courses, 9-hole, pitch and putt, top golfs. As long as a game of golf is happening, you can use this. We want it to be as inclusive as possible.
Yeah, most people, once they hear that, they'll be thinking, "This seems too good to be true." I'm getting paid to do what I love. So I guess you know, as a golfer, my first question would be, what's the catch?
Yeah, on the website we've got it down to just a few steps, so you can see exactly what you need to do, and each step you get a percentage. So the more you do, the greater you can actually get back. And eventually there will be memberships to join this. For now, we're just running an early adopter program so people can try it out, use it, no cost. So that Eventually, yes, there will be a membership because no free lunch. And we do get asked a lot, well, this seems to be too good to be true. How can you do this? I'm sure a lot of people realize how much we give up as people these days in terms of our privacy, our data, information, our behaviors. So much is tracked right now. And in a lot of industries, this is already monetized. Now, a lot of industries don't give anything back. So we looked at this and said, well, we can not only do this for golf, but we can also share that with everybody who does drive the business. That's golfers. Us golfers, we are the engine for this entire industry. So we should, why not? We get enjoyment out of the game, but we should also get a little bit more because the whole rest of the world is taking advantage of our behaviors. So we're just creating an area where we can engage or not. It's up to you how much or how little you want to share. And however much you do, you can be rewarded for it.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
that's really it. That's what pays the bills. There are 67 million registered golfers in the world. Registered golfers. That means the ones who go to Topgolf, they're not counted. Topgolf usually says around 50% of their people that walk through the door consider themselves non-golfers. So is that really 67 million or is it 100 million people that play golf? Well, we're not really sure. Everybody can guess. It's a lot of people. So there is a lot of information flying around out there. And it's useful for people. It's useful for golf facilities. Golf facilities can use the information to make your experience better. So we want to have this nice system that just, we call it an ecosystem for, fancy word, but it just means what everybody does helps each other. So the golfer does things that helps the golf course. The golf course then is able to do things to help the golfer with a better experience. So that is what we're aiming for.
And yeah, so that was going to be my next question. Obviously, your first, I guess, beta test is going to be sort of this play to earn model. So golfers obviously input the certain degree of information they want, they get rewarded. My next question was going to be, does this involve golf clubs as well? But as you mentioned there, it does involve them in some capacity. So do golf clubs have an account on the app? And sort of what's their involvement with Golfsmart?
Yeah, it does and it doesn't involve them. On the initial consumer side, it doesn't. You can play any golf course as a player. Go anywhere you want, private, public, doesn't matter. So in that regard, no, you don't need to check in with them, say, hey, I'm with Golfsmart. You can book your round however you want, pay for it however you want. That's all fine. What we are programming is for golf courses who want to sign up and say, okay, well, I want to be part of this program where we as the golf course owners will actually incentivize and give some rewards back to the golfers who play at our golf clubs. So one of the steps is to just swipe your thumb, 1 to 5 stars. How was your day? Quick review. Okay, that gets you a couple percentage points back. So golf clubs can use that type of information. They can also now target those golfers and say, right, we have a captive audience. So what can we do to say, we're special, we're trying, we want your business. We're going to show you we're better. We want to encourage all those activities because it's beneficial for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's completely optional. They don't have to be involved if they don't want to. But the idea is hopefully some will because that benefits all of us who play.
Of course, yeah. And even just from that little point you mentioned about swiping to the 1 to 5 stars, it's clear that, you're really focusing on a simplistic and easy to use design, which for me being involved in the golf tech space is great to hear. And people always go on about simplicity. How can I make this really easy to use? Are you involved in sort of the building the tech yourself, or do you have another team member that's involved in actually building the technology?
Yes, I don't get involved with the technology. We have other people, proper developers who are doing the actual, engine of it.
Yeah.
So really what my contribution is kind of the overall experience, the journeys, what people might look for, and they will adjust the tech to fit that. We are going to release the MVP or the minimum viable product, as they say in the tech space, the beta in Q1, so just in a couple months. The early adopters will get going on it, test it out. I'm sure they'll let us know if there are improvements or things that they don't approve of. Uh, and we'll just keep taking it from there, adjusting as we go along, and hopefully just grow into a community.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talked about the community element before. I think that's a really exciting opportunity for you. So yeah, I think the viewers will be interested to learn how Andrew Johnston, or Beef as he's more affectionately known, actually got involved. So yeah, tell me how that all got started.
We were just crossed paths through some mutual acquaintances. He spends time here down in the Algarve, and so we were having a coffee. And what are you up to? What are you doing this? Oh, he's doing that. And he said, well, this is what we're doing. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. Just asked a few questions, and really, so I can be a member and I can still earn yes. And it's like, that's awesome. Can I be involved? What can I do? And I said, well, geez, you can do whatever you like. You're Beef, you can record videos for us. You can just talk to people about it, whatever you like. And he said, yeah, I'm in. I want to do your videos. I want to help. I'll promote it. I love the idea. It's for every single golfer. No restrictions. So he loved the idea, and he loved the fact that we're trying to give back a little bit to the players. So that it was really that simple.
Mm. I think that's a great guy to have involved because he's such a well liked figure within the game of golf. Like he's very recognizable with a big beard, and he has a great personality as well. And also, it's very well aligned with the brand because it's sort of, you're trying to be a brand of the people, pretty much. You're trying to get as many people involved. So I couldn't think of a better golfer to be um, as a brand ambassador for your company. I think that's brilliant. Um,
We kind of got lucky there on that one. So
yeah, well, that's it. The serendipity of the golf industry, and maybe we're churning up some more serendipitous connections today. You never know. Um, but yeah, I'd love to know when did you actually make the move to Portugal? So you're obviously in America based for a while. What was sort of the driving factors behind that? I can imagine the sun would have been one of them.
I've actually worked most of my career with Troon outside of the U.S.
Oh, okay.
I've always loved travel and speaking a few languages, so I was just really curious, and I like being overseas. Well, overseas from the U.S. perspective, and came to Portugal as part of a large portfolio transaction for Troon, and said this is great. Started here, started helping out in Europe, and have moved around a lot since then, a lot of different countries. But when it came time to decide what place is really great to live, the people are fantastic, it's well located, the weather helps. It was a pretty quick decision. Pretty
Hmm.
quick decision.
And just out of curiosity, like based on your experiences in the US golf industry and the European golf industry, do you notice any like maybe cultural differences or the way that the golf business is run between Europe and America?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. You have a trunk, you have a boot, you have a windscreen, you have windshield. I mean, they're just some words, but uh, walking over here is much more prevalent
Of
than it
course.
is in the US. It can be down to golf course design. Some golf courses are less walkable, so understandable. A lot of it's down to the experience that's desired, which changes from country to country and region to region. What people look for and want is different. And the US now has built a little bit of an expectation aura. So
Hmm.
people go there and they do expect certain things that they may not expect if they go to another country. So all that is part of the diversity and fun of what we get every time we change places when we play golf.
Yeah. I mean, I've been out briefly to America. I went around to a few country clubs and just the whole experience of arriving. So I was really lucky. I got out to New Jersey and I met into a guy called John O'Donoghue, he turned out to be the president of a country club. It was called Navasink Country Club in New Jersey.
Okay.
Um, and obviously, him being the president, I got the royal treatment. So, driven up in the car, welcome Mr. Curry, came out, and I was like, I mean, this is so different to what we have in the like UK and Ireland. Obviously, golf is a bit more accessible. Obviously, membership prices tend to be significantly lower. Um, I know, from talking to the people I've caddied for this year, I
Hmm.
think one of the big values they mentioned about being a member of a country club in the US was the networking that they got out of it. So obviously it seems to be almost an investment for those guys, especially guys in the legal side of things, accounting. They're almost getting clients from that. So yeah, it's just it's so interesting how golf has manifested itself in different ways throughout the world. Um, and like Portugal, it seems to be a little bit more laid back from what I've seen. I got out to a few golf courses. Would it be? I guess it's mostly visitors out there then, or is there quite a membership?
Largely tourist driven.
Hmm.
The Portugal is a small country just by itself, so statistically, numerically, just doesn't have a lot of registered golfers compared to the Germanys, the Frances, Spains, UKs. So yeah, most of it's inbound tourism,
Hmm.
sun year round, which helps. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is really really interesting. I do feel that in Europe we are a little bit behind in terms of some of the business practices, but I do get the challenges because we have different laws, even though there is, whether it's the EU or the UK, etc. There are a lot of different languages, different legal systems, different regions, factors that you don't have in the US. And some of these things are very well ingrained, and it is tough to change. Labor laws are much different, very challenging in a lot of places. So there are some contributing factors to why that is a bit different. But I do think that that brings opportunities for those people who want to always be forward thinking and more progressive.
Hmm.
A lot of why the U.S. is successful in their country clubs in particular is because they create that experience. It's not just going there to have a round of golf and maybe a drink after. You will want to go there and have dinner with your partner or with your family on the weekend. You will want to do those things. And that's not always the case on this side of the pond. So
Yeah.
it does present opportunities for those who want to do it.
Yeah. Do you think there is room? Like I know there is obviously some higher end clubs in England and Ireland that are trying to and they are doing given that higher end experience. But do you think there is room for, say you're an elite country club to be placed in, let's say Dublin with a pretty premium price membership? Do you think that model in Europe translates, or do you think it's more these factors that you just mentioned there that are going to hold it back? Do you think it's an inevitability, or do you think these factors will sort of keep us this way?
You do have a few of them, like you mentioned, quite a few of them that are around in all the different countries over here. So it is possible. A lot of it is the value proposition. What are people getting for the money and the time they're going to put in? A lot of it's location, sure. The facilities definitely help. Service levels are a big one.
Mm,
They are a big one. People need to have good attention to detail and attention to guests, to members. It's not an overnight fix, but if you do start and you do try to change those things, it makes a difference. We know it makes a difference. That's what most of my career was with Troon. You just start measuring these things step by step. It adds up.
mm. I, I'm just digging into this sort of like standard of golf course and price range because it's something really interesting. So if you were to identify, and this might be difficult, but if you're to identify like one thing that you can improve about a golf club that makes the biggest impact, sort of pound for pound, what would you advise golf clubs to pay more attention to?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Juicy one.
Let's start by the first touch point, which is usually the outside service people. They have different words for them. Some people call them caddies. Sometimes they're outside service, guest service attendants. The first impression is always so important. So is it the sign in front of your entrance that's rusty or hasn't been painted or something for decades?
Hmm.
People will often look past that if they're treated and greeted well. So if you start their experience in their journey the right way, you can get away with a lot. We
Mm.
know statistically that for golfers, the condition of the greens is the most important thing.
Mm.
Now, number two, number three is no longer fairways, tee boxes. It's starting to be who you're playing with, but condition of the greens is still number one. So, does that mean you need to look at your greens a little bit better? Well, yeah,
It's, it's
probably.
Yeah, there was a golf course in Scotland that had a nightmare with their greens this year, and straight away, people were wanting refunds. They didn't want to play the course, which was really unfortunate. But it's such a big factor, as you mentioned. Um, I think that's an interesting point, and just like the satisfaction of golfers playing courses. So, is that something that you're gonna um, embed in your app as well, as like reviews of golf courses, or what sort of spectrum of data are we
It's
talking?
definitely going to be there because people will leave reviews, which means we're going to have up to date reviews for wherever people are playing every day, instantly. And unfortunately, clubs aren't always the best at communicating things. I probably am not alone having gone to golf clubs and find their greens have been aerified or punched. So you get there and, oh, wait a minute, there's holes in the green. Not that I wouldn't want to play, but I should have been told. And, it just kind of, again, starts you off on that not so great of an experience.
Mm.
So golf courses change every day. So it's great to go and see, instead of like Google, where you might have a review from 6 months ago, it
Mm.
doesn't really help you if you're playing this week. So that's almost an automatic part of what we have just because of what we've designed into the app. The data part of it, we start at zero. So people aren't sharing anything. They need to choose whatever they want to share.
Mm.
We're not about selling people's data. We do not sell people's data. A lot of the statistics are what we sell. We don't need to know that you, Graham, are who you are as a person, just to know that you went and played Kingsbarns
Sure.
and that you left a 5-star review. So very, very separate. We want people to choose what they want to share, because most times in this world today we can't. And
Mm.
then we also want to bake in some of those other things that are very useful to golfers. Conditions of the golf courses, experience, big part of it. Not last step, you can do these steps in any order. You can do one, all of them, doesn't matter. One we do have is complete a more detailed survey. So answer a few questions and do an NPS review. Again, it can be very quick.
Mm.
We value that with a greater percentage because that is more detailed, which will provide feedback to the golf courses, something they may not get. A lot of them do try very hard to get surveys, get feedback. This way, we're just going to help encourage people to do that. We're going to help the golf course owners, and we're going to help the golf courses, or the golfers, sorry.
Yeah, I think the fact that the users of the app have autonomy as to choose which level of information they contribute. So maybe someone goes out and says, "Yeah, I don't really care about making too much money. I'm only going to give a little bit of information." And then someone who's saying, "Listen, I'm playing 7 days a week. I could actually make a bit of money. I'm gonna, complete everything." And I think as consumers, just in general, not just in the golfing world, I think we've all become a little bit more aware of how our data is being used, and it can be frightening for a lot of people. But I think that's a confidence boost that you can basically choose a scale of from 0 to 100 how much data and input you actually have.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, that is pretty critical. We've had a few blockchains approach us because the data element is so central for us.
Mm,
And some of them in particular said, oh, well, we've got this zero knowledge proof, a lot of the Web3 stuff
yeah,
saying,
sure.
well, the privacy is so key. So when you guys are ready, you let us know because it's important for them. It's one of their key tenants. And we're building that in from day one because it is important. And right now we don't have much of a choice. You see the accept or decline just for cookies on your browser and your computer. If you say manage, well, look through the list. You probably have 100 different groups that are collecting your data and making money off of it. We're
Mm,
not. And it'll take a lot of time to go in and uncheck all those different boxes. So we
yeah.
just want to make this easy, give something back for people. We're not here to compete with loyalty programs. Different groups do different things. We're here to just say, hey, yeah, use it as much or as little as you want, and we'll give you money for it. Use it however you like. Keep it as simple as we can.
That's awesome. And have you been following the sort of Web3 trend? I say trend, it's probably a bit more than that. Have you been involved in that space at all, sort of the last couple of years?
I have a little. My partner has been more involved in that for a few years, actually. So we're very familiar with all of that. For us, it is too early because we believe in the technology, blockchain in particular, and there is a big difference between crypto and blockchain. So for us, the blockchain technology is pretty fundamental in what the future is going to look like.
Hmm.
But what we're doing today is it's called Web 2. It's just how businesses run today. So we're going to bring as much of that shared ownership and shared economy into our system today because we can start today. Golfers don't have to worry. It's just you're safe. It's business like usual. It's that credit card thing. You pull it out of your pocket. You know it works. You don't really care what goes on in the background to make it happen.
Yeah.
And hopefully, and I think it will, the technology with blockchains, et cetera, will grow, it will evolve, and then eventually will become more mainstream, easier to use, which is a big drawback right now, and just kind of more believable.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess if we zoom out from sort of the blockchain and Golfsmart just for a little minute, just because you've had such an extensive career in golf, like I'd be fascinated to pick your brain. Where do you see sort of the opportunities in golf as an entire industry? Sort of if we look, let's say 20 years into the future, what do you think the game of golf looks like, or what do you think has changed between now and let's say like 20 years in the future?
It will certainly be more virtual and more tech oriented. I hope as a sport that we don't lose that physical part of it.
Yeah.
Because swinging the club, the feel when you hit a good shot, I mean, maybe they'll eventually the VR headsets or whatever it winds up to be will give us that same sensation. But hopefully we don't lose that, but it's very possible. It could happen. People talk about the metaverse a lot. Nobody knows what that is really, what it's going to be like, but will there be something that resembles what we think it is? Yeah, I think so. And how virtual we actually go as an industry, as a sport, I don't really know. Golf is always questioned about its environmental footprint. I do know from being in the industry that a lot of places are very conscious, and it's actually not as bad as the general public thinks in terms of the impact. But that doesn't mean it doesn't take up a lot of acreage. It has to use water. Grass types are being improved fast enough. Who knows? So to be honest, Graham, I'm not really sure what that looks like, other than there will be more tech stuff around it, in it. Maybe a lot of it's even based on that. Right now you have some of the technology. You're still at least hitting a golf club. You're still swinging it.
Yeah, like in driving ranges, like maybe they have the TrackMan where you can play a golf course and hit your ball in the range. You're still, it's very physical. You're obviously hitting a golf ball just as normal. But to your point in virtual reality, like you see companies like Golf Plus that are supported by Rory McIlroy. So that's going to be a big driver of their progress. They are very heavily going into this VR domain. And it's, with just, if you play out time, it seems to be definitely going that direction. It's almost inevitable, really.
Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of scary in one regard because we all like this industry and the sport so much, but it's also good, and it's also very needed. There's a lot done in other industries that isn't done in golf yet, and that is kind of a shame. All of our experiences would be better if it was. They'd be more seamless, more fluid, more cost efficient for everybody. So there is a whole lot of positives to it. We just not really sure what they are yet.
Yeah.
That was a huge part of why we tried to come up with this, because we know that the sport itself, it's historic, it's got tradition. How do you change that? I don't know. So other people can figure that out, whether it's length of drivers, golf balls. I don't have an answer, don't know where to start. And a lot of those questions other people deal with. So we thought, how can we keep this simple? What does everybody do? Everybody plays golf. Top golf. You may not be a golfer, but you're still actually playing golf. You're swinging the golf club. So how do we capture that?
Yeah.
And this is what we came up with.
I think that's a beautiful thing about your solution is that it's not divisive. It's, there is literally nothing to lose from anyone who uses it. And it could be used by anyone playing anywhere at any time in any venue, which is really cool. So going back to, obviously you're launching this product in 2023. So is the initial trials, is that in Portugal or is that just worldwide?
Early adopters are worldwide. We have covered a good 20 plus countries already where people have signed up saying they want to do this. So all the major golf markets, if I remember the map correctly. So I would expect we're going to have golfers on there using it because it's really that simple. You go play, you check in, you swipe your finger, start racking up your rewards.
Exactly. People need to start planning what they're going to spend their money on. What are you going to spend your first earnings on the app on then, John? What's your first purchase?
I'm going to obviously just make sure it works first.
Exactly. Get past the real critical stuff of being able to function before we're worrying about that.
Yeah, well, and then being a founder, I mean, you know how this is. Whatever I get, it just has to go right back in. So,
correct. Listen, John, like a lot of fascinating stuff going on in your life. I'm sure everyone will be really keen to check it out, maybe get involved. If someone is curious then to hear more about your product, where would they go online to sort of
Golfsmart.app. Golfsmart.app. Pretty easy. There's contact forms, there's some FAQs. So we are accessible on, I think, most of the main social media channels. Sure, there's some obscure ones we're not yet, or maybe never will be, I don't know. But yeah, we hope to be accessible by everyone, and any question is more than welcome because, as you know, that helps streamline your product and build updates and improvements for the future as well. So love to hear from everybody.
Yeah. Really cool, John. Thank you very much for your time. That was super interesting to learn more about Golfsmart. That was the Future of Golf podcast. Thank you very much, everyone, for viewing. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you, Graham. Cheers.
Thanks for watching another episode of the Future of Golf podcast. To make sure you don't miss another one, click subscribe, and to track my personal progress at HandyCaddy, check out handycaddy.com and visit our links in our social, all down below.